anyway. So please help me please join me in welcoming Bob Flynn. Some of you may know him as Box Bob, for his presentation, Box at IU, More Than Just Storage.
Thank you, sir. This is my security blanket. I'm fighting a cold, and I'm going to try and power through, do a Hillary. Well, actually, maybe that's not the best way to power through. I want you all to cast back about 5 years. How did we collaborate? Everybody loved that group drive on the server, departmental file server. Was really good at bringing in external collaborators, version control, all that stuff. Well, okay, maybe not so much. So that was our environment. That started to drive people towards consumer tools like Dropbox, Google Docs, because those things allowed you to be more productive. So you could get out there, you could collaborate with other people, you could access your content from everywhere. You had backup of your files up in the cloud. So that was a great thing, except for the fact that we didn't have contracts with any of those folks, and there was all this IP flying out the door, and in some cases users were clicking through terms and conditions that actually gave away the rights to their intellectual property. Bit of an issue. So Indiana University's CIO, Brad Wheeler, along with a couple of others, went knocking on doors. They started with Dropbox and said, hey, higher ed would like to get a contract with you. We'd like to, our users are using your tools. We'd like to wrap a contract around that, get some enterprise controls, security, that sort of thing. Dropbox said, no, sorry, we're a consumer tool. We don't do that enterprise thing. Sent them packing. So there was another company out there that had been built for the enterprise from the beginning called Box that they ended up talking to, and Box was interested in this conversation, interested in working with higher ed, and in fact, from that came the first Net Plus program in Internet 2, and now we take advantage of a number of Net Plus contracts here at IU, Splunk, I'm drawing a blank on the others, but there are about 50 Net Plus services available to the higher ed community, and Box is one of those. So how do we use Box? I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the use cases at Box that we didn't really expect when we signed up for this contract. We wanted to set up essentially a magnetic appeal for a service like this to try and pull that IP back into the IU space, into something that was secure and managed, and we had some contractual protections around. So even though our initial contract gave us nominally 2 gigabytes per user, we offered 50. We wanted it to be attractive. That soon doubled to 100, and now it's unlimited. But we had in mind these simple collaboration use cases, the backup, the storage, but people have taken it much farther than that. So, for example, I'm going to go through really some of my favorites here. So there's a professor of Spanish phonetics who has a network of native speakers around the Spanish-speaking world, and they are invited into a Box account or a Box folder that he sets up, and they just use free Box accounts to connect. Doesn't have any impact on them because he owns the folder, so he owns the quota. What he does on a regular basis, he'll send out an email to them and say, hey, read this sentence for me. They get out their phone, they read the sentence, they drop the audio file in the folder, and all of a sudden, he has about 10 different dialects of Spanish saying the same thing that he can give to his students to compare and learn the differences between those dialects. And then using Box Embed, he can grab one of those and throw it dynamically into an online quiz and say, tell me where this speaker's from and how you know that. The School of Music, the Jacobs School, I believe he's the chair of the audio engineering department. He distributes studio recordings to the artists after the fact and then collaborates with them on what they would like in terms of a final production. And then when those audio files are complete, when the production's done, he uses that collaboration space to distribute them, those to the artists as well. And those are artists both inside of IU and out, and it's a seamless process. This is a new one I learned recently, the Halls of Residence here. At the end of the academic year, they send out a small army of students with their phones and the Box Capture app, and they go in and they will take pictures of the damage that students have done to the dorm room. I know that may shock some of you parents out there to learn that such a thing happens in the dorms. But so they'll say, I'm in Briscoe dorm in this room, and here's a picture of mold growing in a drawer. And that's not a made-up use case, by the way. They sent me the picture. And then later on, the professional staff goes back. They have the folders, the rooms, the pictures, and they can go in and assess the damage and assign a cost to that for the students. This one registers high for me on the list of we didn't expect that when we bought Box. At the Student Rec Center, when a student comes in for a swim lesson, the instructor swims alongside with an iPad and a waterproof case, filming the students swimming, and before they've left the building, they can have that video uploaded to a shared folder with comments on what they need to work on for their next lesson. Whoops, I clicked before the other ones. The process that we're using to assess third-party software is a workflow that has been built in Box that combines the data stewards, purchasing, policy, security, and legal to evaluate new services as they come in if they need to have some sensitive data. And that's a simple workflow that's enabled by Box in terms of working with the requester and those various teams. And then finally, research. I'm going to give a use case actually not from IU, but this type of thing does happen at IU. But a colleague at University of Pennsylvania talked about how a researcher would break up, he would have really large data sets, and he would break them up amongst a number of colleagues, and he would put the subsets of data on hard drives and mail them around the world to his colleagues, and then wait for them to do their calculations on it and send it back, and then he'd collect them all and recompile the data. You can imagine that's a little bit easier in Box right now than that used to be. So here are a couple of stats about how we're using, or who's using Box, or how much we're using Box right now. We are at 110,000 users. I don't have complete proof on this, but I think after email, it's probably the most widely used service at IU. I want to point out one of my favorite stats, 43,000 users with 0 bytes in Box. They're just using it for collaboration, not storage. At the other end of the spectrum, and that number's already out of date, that guy's over 12 terabytes as of Monday. It runs the full gamut, I guess, is the message there. And we're at about almost 490 terabytes as of today. So that's some of what we're doing with Box right now. We are in the middle of retiring RFS, and we've been migrating lots of files out of RFS into Box. I moved 1.7 million files for the School of Business into Box. Took a little while, but we got it there. And we're using a tool called Cloud FastPath, and there's a competitor called SkySync that we're going to be testing as well. If you have a large migration need, departmental file server, we can move those over even with permissions intact. So definitely reach out and talk to me if you want to do that. End users are using the web UI, which is about to get a speed upgrade, Box Sync, and FTPS. And I myself have migrated a couple of 100 gigs with FTPS, and there's some great KB documentation on that. It actually works pretty smoothly. So are you ready to unplug your servers, those departmental file shares, that G Drive group folder? If so, feel free to reach out. Tomorrow there's a workshop. I'll have some data at the end, but there's a workshop from 10 to 12 tomorrow in the Frangipani room about how departments can set up a Box environment for their space. So now I want to talk about some of the fun stuff. What's coming in Box? Box just had their conference 2 weeks ago, and so we have a view of some of the new things coming along I want to share with you. There's a new web UI that's going to allow you to rearrange things a little bit. It's going to be rolled out in phases, but currently you can go in and mark favorites and have that be your home view. It's much cleaner. It gives you a lot more data and expansibility, and I'll show you. There's a link at the end. You can start playing with this today. We won't push it out to the entire enterprise just yet because there are a few things missing, but you can certainly play with it. You can toggle it on and off. So we'll be publicizing, actually we'll probably turn on the toggle link in everybody's Box account so you can play with it yourself. It includes, the new web UI includes a new search capability. Actually, it's the old capability which used to be on 2 pages. You'd have to enter a search and hit enter, and then it'd go to another page, and you could filter. You can do that all now through the search box. That's nice, and you're going to be able to save searches and have that be one of your custom views as well. In the grid view, you'll be able to view images or files in different sizes, so you can have really small thumbnails or full-size images just in the folder view. So this is all part of the new web UI. Then there are also new types of viewers coming. So we'll have HD streaming video instead of the current download the video before you can play it. 3D viewer, 360 image and video viewer. And then this one's really interesting, this Excel previewer. Everybody complains apparently to Box that when you click on a spreadsheet, the preview of it is pretty lame. Well, with this new viewer, you're going to be able to do everything except edit cells. So you'll be able to switch between tabs, copy and paste. Oh, that's another thing. In the new web UI, you can actually just in a folder copy items and paste them through the web browser, copy and paste into other folders, or make a copy right there in that folder just by doing Control-C, Control-V. Also, annotations are coming. In the web preview, you'll be able to annotate any type of file, an image file, a Word file, whatever. You add an annotation, and it will put that in the comment stream of the document. I know when they initially previewed this, they showed that you'd be able to do it in videos as well. I don't know if that's going to be in the first release, but I'm looking forward to it. Mobile apps are changing. The Android app's already been updated. iOS app changes coming. There's going to be recents, which will span across all your Box usage. So if you were just working on a file on the web and then you head out the door and open your phone and click recents, that will be the file on top of your view. The search interface will also be added in there. New offline access. That's the search. Also, 3D viewer, HD viewer coming. Medical imaging, that kind of depends on whether or not IU buys into the medical imaging. Pretty small user group there, we'll see. But also a new audio player on the mobile as well. Now, this is one that folks have been looking for a long time. So if you're familiar with IU Cloud Storage or Kumo in the IU Anywhere environment, you're used to being able to have a map drive to Box. Well, Box Desktop will be coming out, and that will give you a map drive to Box for both Mac and Windows users. And ultimately, not in the first release, but ultimately you'll be able to mark files for offline content, and Box Sync, if you use that now, will go away. I hope Brad's not in the room. He's a big Box Sync fan. But you'll be able to mark different files for different computers. So sync these files on that computer and those files on the other. So work files at work, personal files at home. My clock just went to 0. I'm going to run down. This is an important one. They just announced that they're working with Google, so like you can right now with Office Online, you'll be able to generate or launch Google Docs out of Box and save the content in Box instead of on Google Drive. And then finally, there's information about the workshop. There's the link to sign up for the Box new UI.
Thank you, Bob. And if anyone's looking for Bob, you can find him usually on the treadmill desk on the second floor at 8 in the morning.
Right.
He's pretty much always there.